Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today in this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step strategy to answer multiple choice questions in IELTS reading exam. So let's get started. What's the first thing that we do as soon as we get the question paper? We would read the instructions very carefully and we would underline the keywords. Now talking about the keywords here. We would only underline the keywords in the question, not in the options. So in the first one, it's complex information. In the second one, it's chimpanzees. In the third one, it's the birds and the evidence. Most of the time, you will notice that it's the noun that is going to serve as a keyword for you. So these are, three very simple names that we can remember, like complex information, chimpanzees, and birds and evidence. So we'll stop as soon as we find the word complex information, for example. So I'll skim it really fast. And as soon as I find a keyword, I will just stop and mark it. Now, a scientist based in Scotland claims to have found the first evidence of common language shared by different animal species. The calls, which are understood by this, blah, blah. We don't have to look at the names and all that stuff. Okay, here it says complex ideas. Maybe it's connected to our question. Maybe we can find the answer here. Next, the findings have been heralded as significant breakthrough in quest to discover the origins of this complex form of communication. Maybe I can find the answer here. Made the discovery after spending months observing calls of the animal monkeys. He and his colleagues are listening to the animal noises. They noticed that monkeys adapted their calls to change the meaning to warn one another about different threats or opportunities. For example, the sight of a leopard prompted a crack alarm call. However, when they merely repeated calls made by other monkeys, they added an oo. Researchers found the calls could be understood by other species as well. Oh, here we go. Alarm calls were far more complex than we thought. They were conveying information. So complex and information. We don't know where we're going to find the answer. Well, that was contextual, self-aware, and intelligent. We then tried playing these calls back to monkeys. Blah, blah, blah. Cross species. Okay, they're communicating across species. That's good. Okay. Let's see. The other one is chimpanzees. Let's see where we see that. Among scientists, the idea that animals and birds might be sentient has been around a long time. Chimpanzees, here we go. Chimpanzees are perhaps the most obvious species for comparisons with humans, but their abilities can still surprise, blah, blah, blah. Now, once I've found chimpanzees, I would be looking for birds and evidence. Let's see where they're talking about birds. Right now, we are just skimming the passage to find the keywords. We would scan them later on to find the correct answer. This is the fast way of answering the questions. Perhaps the most surprising signs are found in birds. Here we go. These are the birds whose tiny heads and small brains assume to complete barrier to sentience. Now, as of now, we know that all three questions we have found the address of those questions, like where we will find the answer. After that, we will scan. Once again, read the instructions very carefully, number one. Number two, underline the keywords or highlight the keywords. Number three, skim the passage really fast to find those keywords. Number four. So once again, we'll read the question instructions very carefully. We'll underline the keywords. Number three, we will skim the passage really fast to find the keywords which are there in the question. Once we have found the address of those keywords, we will scan that area of the paragraph very, very carefully to see which one is the correct answer or to eliminate the wrong answers. Let's see how it goes. Coming to the complex information. Here it says, complex information can only be communicated by human beings or is described as intelligent, self-aware, and based on context. Is communication across species. is too difficult for Campbell monkeys to understand properly. Now, most of the time in multiple choice questions, we'll find that all the 4 options, they are mentioned somewhere in the paragraphs. It's on our understanding ability that we have to find what exactly they want us to find. Now here we have to find some information about the complex information. Okay, now they say that birds can communicate complex ideas not just to their peers but across species. Okay, let's see. Findings have been heralded significant breakthrough in quest to discover the origins of human language and proof that the ability to construct a complex form of communication is not unique to man. Now, what does this phrase mean, that it's not unique to man? It means that not only man, but some other creatures like monkeys or animals that they're talking about, they can also use complex form of communication. So here it says complex information can only be communicated by human beings. So we can safely eliminate this choice because it says it's not unique to man. So it means it is being used by other species as well. Okay, right. Now, he made the discovery after spending months observing the calls of Diana monkeys in the Thai forest in the Ivory Coast. He and his colleagues recorded thousands of monkey calls, spent hundreds of hours. They noticed the monkeys adapted to their calls, changed the meaning. Here, like, they're not mentioning anything more about the communication, the complex information. Right? So let's move ahead. The researchers found that calls could be understood by other species of monkey as well by some birds. What our discovery showed is that alarm calls were far more complex than we thought. They were conveying information that was contextual, self-aware, and intelligent. I remember I read this somewhere. Now, we need to match. Is it talking about complex information? To some extent, yes. See how? Our discovery showed that alarm calls were far more complex. So the calls or the sounds or whatever information they were passing, they were far more complex. How do I know that? Here, they were conveying information that was contextual, self-aware, and intelligent. What kind of information was it? It was complex information. So it looks like maybe this can be the answer. Okay, let's move ahead. We then tried playing these calls back to other monkeys and they responded in ways that showed they knew the meaning. Okay, I don't see anything matching to this. What's more, the same calls could be recognized by other species like Campbell monkeys. I read Campbell monkeys here. Is too difficult for Campbell monkeys to understand properly? Of course not. Here it says can be recognized by other species like Campbell monkeys, right? They could understand the calls. Now, let's see. We have these 2 options. So, complex information is communication across species or is described as intelligent, self-aware, and based on context. So, both of them are mentioned here. How do we know which one is correct? See, complex information is not defined as communication across species, right? They just said that they can communicate across species. But complex information is not defined as just a communication across species, right? It's described as intelligent, self-aware, based on context. Here we have the proof. Sentence is a little bit complex, but see how it goes. So alarm calls were far more complex than we thought. They were conveying information. Who was conveying information? The alarm calls, the complex alarm calls. Conveying information that was contextual, self-aware. So what was this information? This is the complex information. So that's how we describe it. So complex information that they said above, it's basically they're asking for we need to define it. Complex information is not called communication across species, right? It's just a feature that they have mentioned that this happens. Coming to the second one. So the second one is chimpanzees. So where did we find chimpanzees? We find the chimpanzees here. Among scientists, the idea that animals and birds might be sentient had been around a long time. Chimpanzees are perhaps the most obvious species for comparisons with humans, but their abilities can still surprise. As when researchers, Language Research Center, taught some to speak, They taught the animals to use voice synthesizers and a keyboard to hold conversation with humans. One chimp developed a 3,000 word vocabulary, and tests suggest she had the language and cognitive skills of a 4-year-old child. Now let's see what all is mentioned here, right? Now, are not as intelligent as birds. I did see them talking about animals and birds here. But if we read it, if we scan it, are they comparing it? Are they comparing those two species? So the idea that animals and birds might be sentient. Sentient means capable of experiencing things through its senses, has been around a long time. Other than that, they have not talked about any comparison between animals and birds. So for now, I'm eliminating this, okay, because I don't see it here, right? Next, can be taught a language, can play the keyword, or have the language skills of a 4-year child. I read about this here. One chimp developed a 3,000 word vocabulary. She had the language and cognitive skills of a 4-year-old child. So one chimp had that. Okay, so let's keep it as an option. Can play the keyboard. Now, when they say play the keyboard, I read about keyboard here. They taught the animals to use voice synthesizers and a keyboard to hold conversations with humans. So chimpanzees were taught something, right? So we humans taught the animals to use voice synthesizers and a keyboard to hold conversation with humans. It doesn't mean that these chimpanzees, they can play the keyboard. Keyboard can be used to play music also, right? But here we are teaching them how to use the keyboard. They say use the keyboard for conversations. It's not same as playing the keyboard, right? So it's a bit of tricky thing, right? Now we have two options left. Can be taught a language, and the other one is have the language skills of a 4-year-old child. Now, let's look here. The idea that animals and birds have been around a long time, perhaps the most obvious species for comparison with humans, but their abilities can still surprise. As when researchers at Georgia State University's Language Research Center in Atlanta taught some to speak. So here they are talking about teaching the chimpanzees to speak. They taught the animals to use this thing and this thing to do what? To hold conversation. And to hold conversation, what do they need? Language. So it looks like this may be the answer, but how do I eliminate that? Here they are talking about only one chimp, not the whole species of chimpanzees, right? So I can safely eliminate this one as well. So I feel this is the right answer. Okay. Now, jumping to the third question. Birds have shown evidence of being able to, so number one, teach themselves to solve problem, use multiple tools better than humans do, read numbers as well as people do, sleep better after taking tests. So here we found the birds. So let's read on, let's scan. Perhaps the most surprising signs of intelligence that have been found in birds whose tiny heads and small brains were long assumed to be a complete barrier to sentience. All that is changing, many species showing powerful memories and reasoning power. Let's see, a few years ago, this taught a parrot to recognize and count up to 6 objects, describe their shapes. Taught a parrot, okay. Anything matching to this information? Well, I don't see anything right now. Let's move ahead. Last year, that was taught by Alex Kaselnik, a professor of behavioral ecology at Oxford, who discovered that crows are capable of using multiple tools. I read this word in complex sequences. Now, this says use multiple tools better than humans do. Okay, let's see if they're talking about humans. The first time such behavior has been observed in non-humans, okay? In an experiment, 7 crows successfully reeled in a piece of food placed out of reach using 3 different lengths of stick. Crucially, they were able to complete the task without any special training, suggesting the birds were capable of a level of abstract reasoning and creativity normally associated only with humans. Now, this question is a bit of tricky one. We have to figure out what exactly they mean here, right? Now, first, let's try to eliminate, because when there are more of complex sentences in the passage and a little bit of more uncommon vocabulary, we should use this trick. So number one, I found this one. Let's see if I can tick it or I can just eliminate it. So this is the sentence. Discovered that crows are capable of using multiple tools in complex sequences. The first time such behavior has been observed in non-humans. Now, have they mentioned that they can use multiple tools better than humans, or they have just mentioned that, you know, it's first time that any non-human species is able to use these multiple tools? So they're just saying that it's first time such behavior is observed. They are not saying that they can do it better than humans. There is no comparison. I can safely eliminate that. Right? Now, birds were able to read numbers. Here we go. Here they're talking about numbers. So read numbers from left to right as humans do, and count to 4 even when the line of numbers were moved to vertical to horizontal. Birds performed better in test after a good night's sleep. I read this as well, this one. So let's see if we can tick any of these or we can eliminate any of these. So read numbers as well as people do. Now it says read numbers from left to right as humans do. So it means like humans, similar to humans. It does not mean better than humans. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not saying better than humans. It's just saying, or like equal to humans. It's just saying like humans. So here it says read numbers as well as means as good as people do. No. Better than humans or equal. It doesn't say that. It doesn't make a comparison. It just says they use numbers like humans. That's it. Like they can read numbers and count to 4. Next, sleep better after taking tests. Birds perform better in tests after a good night's sleep, and sleep better after taking tests. And here, so here it says better in tests. So first they sleep, right? That's what it means, after a good night's sleep. So first they sleep and then they give tests according to the text. You know what I'm trying to say? Whenever you're confused in any kind of sentence, try to visualize it. Try to make a picture out of it. So first they sleep according to this passage, and then they are good at tests. And what does the question say? It says sleep better after taking tests. It means that first they take the test and then they go for a better sleep. So it's completely opposite. So it makes the information or makes the answer, see, the answer of this one is not obvious. We have to figure it out. Now, I have eliminated the 3, but how A is correct? Because they have not mentioned about it. Let's see. In an experiment, 7 crows successfully reeled in a piece of food placed out of reach using 3 different lengths of stick. Crucially, they were able to complete the task without any special training, suggesting the birds were capable of a level of abstract reasoning and creativity normally associated only with humans. So they did an experiment with 3 different situations or 3 different lengths of sticks for crows. Without any special training means they tried to learn new thing. They tried to solve that problem. That's what abstract reasoning, using their creativity. So it means they were able to solve the problem by themselves. So what's the main hint here? Without any special training, they could complete the task. It means they didn't require any training. They taught themselves how to solve the problem. So this is going to be the correct answer. So friends, I hope this tutorial was quite helpful, and if you follow these steps, you would be able to get good bands in your IELTS reading exam. So all the best.